Good afternoon. I'm David Lawrence, the Associate Provost and Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences here at the University of Rio Grande and Rio Grande Community College. This afternoon, we are pleased to have with us Dr. Stephanie Alexander. She is the Director of Student Success here at the university, and we're going to be discussing some of the success initiatives that she has going on. I want to welcome you to this show, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy it. Dr. Alexander, Stephanie, welcome to this show. When we talked about a week and a half ago or so, and I invited you to come on, I asked you if you wanted to come and talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you have going on in the Student Success Center. But before we get started with all of that, can you tell us just a little bit about maybe your educational background?
Well, David, I graduated high school at Meigs County, so I'm very familiar with the area, and I'm proud of being from the area. At Meigs, we had an outstanding set of high school teachers. And after my high school experience, I went to OU, where I got a bachelor's degree in elementary ed, and I still have my K-8 certificate. After that, I came back to Rio and got a master's in classroom teaching with a concentration in the humanities. And then after a few years, I went back to OU again, and I completed my PhD in cultural studies.
So did you actually teach in public schools?
I did a little, not a lot. I was a sixth grade teacher in Marietta. I taught art, and then I did a lot of substituting while my children were small. But I decided I kind of liked the idea of higher ed, so that's the direction that I decided to pursue.
Okay. And I understand one of your children is getting married coming up very quickly.
Yes, we have a wedding scheduled for Saturday.
Saturday.
Yes.
So you've got a lot of things going on right now.
We're very busy this week.
This is the end of the semester, the end of the academic year, so we do have a lot of stuff going on, and yours is a little bit more intensified because of that, being the mother of the bride.
Yes.
And congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And which daughter is it?
It's the youngest. It's the baby, Jessica.
Okay. I don't think I've met Jessica.
She's our little one. So.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about what you've got going on in the Office of Student Success. Actually, what is the Office of Student Success? What do you do over there?
Well, that's a very good question, because the Student Success has sort of been a combined effort of several different programs and offices on campus. And what I do is I kind of coordinate all the efforts so that we can kind of help our students be more successful. I work primarily with the students coming in. I do have a great interest in those that are successful students that are going to be ending their college career here in about a week. But primarily I work with the new student advising to make sure they get off on a good start. I work with college readiness for the ones that maybe need a little brush up before they enter college level work. I work with the Jenkins Center, which is our academic support center, and the tutoring center is of course housed within the Jenkins Center. And I work with the First Year Experience Program, which is a coordinated effort between a lot of different offices such as admissions and student activities, and we try to coordinate an effort so that when students come into the college environment, they're getting the supports that they need to be successful students.
What kind of students do you typically get into the Student Success Center?
We see everyone in the Student Success Center. We just recently helped several students with essays to go into graduate school, and we've seen students that are coming in just to try to brush up with skills so that they can maybe avoid needing to take college readiness classes, especially in math. That's our big area where people usually have to do a little brush up. So we see a wide variety of students in the Student Success Center, everywhere from the beginning all the way through to the end.
Okay, I know we've got a couple of full-time tutors that are on staff with us. Can you talk just a little bit about what each of them do?
Well, we have Gary Lesko, and he does primarily writing assistance. And we have Kelsey Doman, and Kelsey does the math. She's in much demand, and she also coordinates our student tutors. And we have 7 student tutors, and they're mostly tutoring in math and science, primarily because that's where the demand is. And they're quite popular today. When I left, they were busting at the seams. There are a lot of students over there.
I can imagine.
Last minute help.
I can imagine. Sometimes students do put off studying, completing final assignments, things like that, until the end, as do sometimes adults, and that seems to be a little bit of a challenge as well. Tell us a little bit about what initiatives you have in place to help the students succeed.
Well, when people think about student success in higher ed, they usually think of the obvious things, such as, the library where you can go to get help.
Sure.
They think of the writing center or a tutoring center, such as we have. But what they don't understand is sometimes there are curriculum type changes that are made in order to try to help propel students toward more successful experiences. And one of the things that we have done that we've tried to concentrate on, this was when I came in July I accepted the position in July, and when I came on board, this was already starting to evolve here at Rio. So I really didn't bring this totally on board with me. It was already in process when I came. But Rio has been experimenting with some accelerated learning programs, and we call these ALPs. And the idea behind an accelerated learning program is that the college readiness aspect is embedded or hurried along so that students do not need to spend as much time in a transitional studies class before they're ready to take college-ready coursework. So, for example, if you were a new student and you came in and you took the placement test and you scored into algebra and you needed to have statistics or pre-calc as your college class, but you're not quite ready for it, then you would spend some time taking the algebra coursework in order to make sure that you could be successful in the later coursework. So we have 3 levels of readiness math, and sometimes that would be 1 term per each level, which would slow you down considerably when you're trying to complete a degree. So the idea is to try to hurry that up. So with math, we have a math pilot, and it's been pretty popular. I think the one for fall was already filled.
Oh, good.
But a student can come in, take the test, they do a diagnostic, and they can work as fast as they want through it. Now, they have the assistance of a tutor as well as an instructor. So it's not like they're in there doing it all by themselves. But they could actually accelerate themselves through and get to where they need to be in 1 term rather than in 2 or 3. So that's one thing that we've been doing here. The second is with English. And traditionally, students are placed into what we call English 111, which is Comp 1.
Right.
Unless you're an English person, people usually, hate taking Comp 1. But we don't. As someone who teaches Comp 1, I don't know why people don't like that.
And that's just the basic English
That's
class,
your
college
basic
level that you find
freshman.
at pretty much any college.
It's the one that's transferable with the
Okay.
state transfer model.
What do you do in that class?
You write your composition papers, and you get the basic skills that you might need to write papers for other college level courses. So in that class, you're learning about how to write for other classes that you'll need to take. So if you're not quite ready for that class, traditionally you would take what we called a 105 class. Now that would put you behind a little bit because you had to take that before you could take the 111. So in order to help speed that up a little bit, we've now combined, we're letting everyone go ahead and be placed into the 111, and we'll just, for the students that need that little bit of extra support, they will register for an additional support class called English 105.
Okay.
And that way the students will be able to accelerate through a little quickly, have that Comp 1 and those skills that they need developed and in place in their first term.
So some of the students will test into that class, and if they pass that class, do they get credit for that?
Yes,
Comp
they will get credit.
It
doesn't seem attractive because it sounds like it's 2 English classes. But basically what it is, it's the English 111, which is the class that you would need to take anyway if you were a student.
Right.
And it's a support class that supports what's being done in the 111. So if I give an assignment in the 111 class as a Comp 1 teacher, then in the 105 class we help the students complete those assignments and use the skills that they need to have in place in order to produce the assignment for the 111 course.
So how much difference is there between the amount of time that the student would be taking the normal 111 class, the normal Comp 1, versus this ALP class?
Well, the ALP class is all done in the first term. So they would be completing the 111 just like our traditional college students that place directly into college level. So they're in there with the college level students, but they're getting that extra support that they need, and they're getting it in a timely fashion so that their extension of time into completing those classes doesn't extend beyond 1 term.
So basically they can come in, if they're a little bit behind and they don't test into that earlier class, that 105, they can then move forward just like every other student who tests into the regular Comp 1.
Yes.
And that means that they can progress through their program of study just as quick as anybody else would.
And
that's a terrific idea.
Yes, that's a very essential idea because especially for certificate and associate degreed individuals that are interested in pursuing those paths, the time to completion gets extended to the point where their financial aid could be in jeopardy, or they may be out of sequence with their studies.
I do know that oftentimes it's difficult for students to pass through in a 2-year degree in 2 years. In fact, I
Yes.
guess the average is about 3 years for most students to actually get through a 2-year program. Because life happens.
Yes.
Sometimes you're not as prepared as you think you are to move right into college level classes. There are any number of reasons for that. So the idea of having this combined class is really a good idea. Is this something that we came up with?
No, Rio doesn't have the market on this. This is actually something that has been going on for quite some time all across the nation. The Community College of Baltimore County was actually doing this in like 2007, and when the idea of reducing the amount of time spent in readiness coursework and classes came to light a few years ago, we decided that we would explore the way that we were delivering these kinds of services. So their model has been pretty well adopted. There's been tons of data that shows that it's a very successful program. Rio was in the process of converting to this when I came on board, and I'm just finishing it up and maybe getting credit. I hope that if it's successful, I get some credit. But English department was already on board with this when I arrived. So
That's true, and I didn't tell the audience this at the beginning, but when we first started, the college readiness position is really a new position, relatively new position for this institution. We started this just a couple of years ago, actually 3 years ago, and you're the second person we've had in this position. So we did have somebody previously that was starting out on the English side.
Yes.
She came with the same background that you had. We're on the English side than the math side,
Right.
and was able to get some things just started. And so we are very pleased that you're here to pick up that, and pleased with what you've been doing with that. Can we take a step back now, and let me ask you this, and this was not a question that we had really prepared for, but I think it's one that the two of us could probably address pretty well. Why do students need to take courses in math and English and those liberal studies types of courses?
Well, I think that writing is essential because it's the way that you articulate what you know. So I'm going to defend comp to the end. Now math, I'm going to defend math because I need to. Now the higher thinking skills that you need to develop in order to do that type of processing are skills that you translate into other areas, not just your academic area, but in your life. So the critical thinking that comes from,
Right.
compiling and composing or from calculating, those are things that are instrumental in creating someone who can go out into the workforce and who can actually do the job like they're supposed to do.
That's true, and I've been spending a lot of time working with our General Education Committee in basically developing and redeveloping and revising our assessment program. One of my responsibilities here is at the university is to look at how we assess different programs, specifically the academic programs. And the General Education program is one of them that we try to assess on an ongoing basis. And as I've prepared myself, as we've been revising that and reviewing that, I've been looking at a lot of studies and a lot of articles that deal with liberal education. And why do we have liberal arts? And what are liberal arts? And one of the things, and you said it exactly, students need to know more than just how to do step-by-step processes. They need, when they come to us and they come away from here, if they earn an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, they need to have some critical thinking skills so that they can problem solve more than just following directions. That's one of the things that our liberal arts education provides them. In some cases, students will come to us and complain a little bit about having to take an English class or a poetry class, for goodness sake.
Imagine that.
Or a math class if they're going into say a history program or something. Why do I have to take this? There are certain outcomes that a student should be able to demonstrate when they complete an associate's degree or a baccalaureate degree, and they are thinking skills. And these are the types of things that our students need to be able to come away with so that they can be successful moving out into leadership positions in society, no matter what their discipline might take it to. All right, let's get back a little bit more to some of the things that you have going on. What types of academic support services do we offer our students to help them succeed?
Well, we have a lot of academic support services, and usually people think of the obvious ones, like the library and,
Right.
and going to the library if you need to study, which I always find it fascinating. I have had students, because I've taught comp part-time here since 2003, I have students who, when it comes time to do the Comp 2 research paper, will say they have never been to the library, and they're graduating seniors. So I always find it fascinating when students don't even go to the obvious things. But we do have some that are a little less obvious, and a lot of times when you're a commuter, because I was a commuter student myself, I did live on campus the first couple years at OU, but after that I became a commuter. And with my master's and with my PhD, I commuted. So I was someone who got in my car and went home after class, and I know exactly the commuter experience.
So you didn't stay for the all the extra activities.
I took naps in my car, and I ate
Okay.
lunch, and I didn't do a lot of things after I became a commuter. I studied and I worked, so I understand that perspective.
And we do have a lot of students who come to this. We are basically a suitcase college, although we do have some dorms on campus.
We do have dorms, so
And-
we
and
have
it's a different,
we have several different populations here.
Yes.
And we strive to fulfill our obligation to all. But some of the things that are offered here that I don't know that students are really aware of, especially the ones that get in their car and go,
Right.
and don't go out and explore. We have a testing center. And most students have experience when they go to the testing center to do the placement test for
Right.
orientation. And they don't realize that there's other services that are offered in there. We actually have tests where you can get course credit by examination called CLEPT.
Right.
And
And those are national tests.
Those are
they not?
national tests. They're
Okay.
recognized on any state college campus pretty much, and most private.
So if a student takes one of those tests, they could actually, and this is what the term was when I was going to school, they could test out of something.
Yes.
If it's one of those tests, they could come in. If they score a certain score, then they would no longer need to take that class. It would
Yes.
just save them some time and money.
Yes, we had a young woman come in yesterday who wanted to do sociology. She's a nursing student and, of course, a BSN student. And I believe that's part of their coursework or something, but she
Okay.
was wanting to test out to see if she could. And I've had other students, I have had nursing students that had to pick up the Comp 1 and then thought, I don't want to do the Comp 2 because I've got clinicals, so how can I get around making that commitment? And they'll just study and go take the test, and
Okay.
they may CLEP out. So that is an option, and there's a whole list. Bev McManus does a wonderful job of having that list on our website. So
A list of all those tests that they're available?
Students can click on, go
Okay.
into the Student Testing Advising Center website
Terrific.
page and see all of that. Something else that we also do for adults who have been out in the workforce that are thinking that they may need to come back to get a credential, we have our CAEL, I believe it's called, CAEL, prior experience assessment, where they can prepare a portfolio, and Debbie Browning helps with that, and they can get course credit or college credit for their life experience. So that is something else that we do to academically support, especially our adult learner population.
Right. And I think CAEL stands for Council for Adult and Experiential Learning.
Yes.
So those folks, especially like displaced workers who
Yes.
have been out in the workforce for a while, who have some learning that they've accumulated, they can come in and actually demonstrate that learning through developing a portfolio that then gets evaluated by our staff, our faculty. And if they earn some credit that way, they can apply that towards their degree plan,
Yes.
and then that would actually save them time, just like CLEPing out of a
Yes.
test.
Yes.
Okay.
It saves them time and helps them get some credit for what they have done already in life. Of course, we have our accessibility office. Students who have been under a previous IEP plan in the high
What's
schools.
an IEP?
An individual education plan.
Okay.
For disability and special
Right.
needs, can visit our accessibility office, and under the ADA accommodations have particular accommodations made for test taking. We have a lot of students that come in and utilize the services. They will schedule the test. They may get an extension on tests, like time and a half for a test, or they may have an oral presentation where someone reads them the test.
Right.
So we have a lot of students that already utilize that service, but a lot of students aren't aware of that service until it's too late in the game to change a bad grade because they haven't been utilizing it. And for someone and older students especially, that think they may have some type of a learning disability that's throwing a little glitch in their ability to succeed well as a student, they can actually see Kelly Bonus, and she can give them a referral, and they can go get some testing done and square away with what they need to do to have an accommodation.
Okay. And my understanding is that accommodation doesn't necessarily make it any easier. It just gives them some extra time.
Yes.
Or it takes away one of the burdens, like if they had a visual problem, they would have maybe larger font or something
Yes.
along those lines. Or as the case that you mentioned, if they have an actual learning disability, there could be some kind of mechanism put in place that would help them achieve the same results, but give them a little bit of help to deal with the specific learning disability.
Yes, it's something that Kelly does a great job with, and she's a wonderful person to work with. I enjoy working with Kelly a lot, but she does quite well. Everything, of course, is confidential, and she said that probably one of the most concerns students have, it is different than an IEP, because an IEP can actually lessen the workload for a student. So when you come into the college environment, the accommodation is not to lessen the workload, but to help you so that you are not disadvantaged in being able to do what it is you're supposed to do for the class. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and sometimes that adjustment takes a little bit of getting used to,
Yeah, a little time.
but she is more than happy to help the students as they transition into their college areas.
And my understanding about that is a student has to self-report that.
Yes.
Unlike in the public schools going up through kindergarten through 12th grade, that would be done for them.
Yes.
And in this case, when you transition into college and you turn 18 basically, then you have to take that upon yourself to go do that. Is that correct?
Yes, and it may not be for all classes. It may just be for classes where you will need to have the accommodation. For example, in Comp 1 we have a lot of writing and things like that, but we don't have a lot of test taking.
Right.
So you may not necessarily need an extended test taking time, because you're not really doing tests in class. You're writing papers and bringing them from outside.
Right.
So you may choose to exercise your accommodations where you see the need in higher ed, whereas sometimes in elementary and K through 12 it's more across the board. All the teachers know, everyone's on board. Here it's more of a situation where the student picks and chooses who will know who they self-disclose to.
And that's all based on testing that's done either here or external to Rio?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And of course, let's see what else. The library, of course. I just wanted to mention the library. We have two excellent reference librarians, Amy Wilson and Tim Snow. And Deb Thompson is great. I think I have overdue books right now at the library, so she'll probably be forgiving me.
She may or may not be watching this show.
I
They'll be in soon if
They'll
they're
be in soon.
if they're
I
not there
promise.
already.
I'll renew them. But they offer two services. They offer an Ohio Link service, which is a big consortium of libraries across the state. So if we don't have it in our library, you might be able to borrow it from Ohio Link. And I think I owe my soul to Ohio Link. So
I actually have used that numerous times. I understand exactly what you're talking about.
if it's not here, they can get it for you. And another service they offer, Amy and Tim both, if you have a question and you email the reference desk, they monitor it and they will send back a reply, because they both monitor it. But we also have something called Know It Now 24/7, which is a little chat box. If you have a question, you can go and type it in. Like if you're doing a research paper and it's 3 a.m. and it's due the next morning at 8, you can go in and type and someone will reply to you. So they offer these nice little services that are around the clock and far extended.
Now, Tim and
in
Amy
addition to what we have here.
aren't actually
No, I don't think
staying
Tim
up
and Amy are up
24/7
at
to
3
do that.
o'clock. I don't know. Maybe they work Know It Now. I don't know. They may be moonlighting there. But the Know It Now is also a collaborative effort. So they may have to do time doing it. I don't know. But it's supposed to work. I've had several students say that they love Ohio Link. I know I love Ohio Link.
Oh, yes.
And it's not just for school. You can get, if you want to read novels or whatever, they're available. The Jenkins Center, I just want to mention that real quickly. It's our Student Success Center, at least that's the way that I think of it.
Right.
We have an open lab, and I always tell the commuting students, if you need someplace to come sit and be warm, and it's winter time, come on over. Open lab, you can Facebook, you can Google. We have the writing assistants. Gary Lesko does a great job with that.
And
of
that's
course,
free for all the students.
That's free. Everything's free.
Everything's free.
And I'm sure it's come out of tuition some way, but it's
Well,
free.
that's true.
We don't
Nothing
charge
is free
them.
in life, but the students have already paid for all that,
Yes,
so they don't
they
have any
might as
extra
well
fees
come-
or anything for that.
They might as well come use it. The math lab, Kelsey Doman is in there, and we say, come do your homework in the math lab. If you get in trouble or stuck, we'll help you. So
I've seen Kelsey sends out emails, and I
Yes.
appreciate that, trying to encourage students to take advantage of this tutoring service. It is free. They are there with both peer tutors, in other words, students who are helping other students, as well as Kelsey. And
Yes.
Kelsey does a terrific job. She really knows her stuff.
And we have student tutors in the following areas: algebra, statistics, pre-calculus, calculus, chemistry, physics, accounting, microeconomics, and macroeconomics.
So there you go. We've covered a
We've-
lot of
we've
major
got a lot.
areas that we have to deal with.
We have 7 student tutors, and I'm pleased to announce that we will be losing 4 to graduation, but then that puts us in the lurch of not having 4 in the fall. So if anyone knows of any students, or if we have any students that have excelled in those areas and would like a little part-time job, come see Kelsey Doman immediately, please.
So
Because-
that's a paid position.
Yes.
Although I'm sure it's not paid a lot, but that's a paid
It's a
position.
paid position.
And could be really beneficial for a student who needs to pick up some part-time work.
And it's flexible. She makes the schedule based on the tutor's availability.
Okay.
So, we also will have a 5th spot in the fall because we have one who will be doing her student teaching. So we will actually need 5 new tutors in the fall out of our 7.
So if you're out there, faculty or watching, or anybody else, especially students, and you are interested in doing this and picking up a little bit of extra money on the side, please contact Stephanie Alexander or somebody in the Learning Center, Kelsey Doman or Gary Lesko, and they can answer any questions you might have. What other things do you have that you want to share with us?
I have some tips for student success.
Today is a great time to do that.
I think it is. I think the biggest tip is to go to class and do your work. That's probably the largest, although it's a little late if, last day of classes is Friday, so maybe a little late. But I think that the most important thing to understand about student success is that it's not always about academic ability, it's about persistence and sticking the course.
Yes.
And that is what produces a successful student.
Yes, that's been my experience, both as a faculty member as well as an administrator. Those students who are willing to put in the extra time or the time that they need to do to complete the assignments and to go to class or lab, they're more likely to succeed. And that's true whether they're coming in as an honor student or as a student who has been out of school for a while and maybe needs some refresher. A lot of it is persistence and making sure that you're willing to put in the time to do the work. That's part of it's almost like the old adage, showing up is 90% of the success. And that's true in college. You do have a lot of work to do, but being there and being willing to do that work is what's going to make you successful. We're about out of time. I want to thank Dr. Alexander for sharing with us what some of the initiatives that are going on in the Student Success Center. And please, those students who are hear this and watch this, please know that that's available for you during regular business hours. We also have, if I'm not mistaken, some tutoring that they can get 24/7 should they
Yes.
choose to do that. You want to speak just very briefly about our e-tutoring program?
E-tutoring is an initiative of the Ohio Consortium, and you can submit papers and do an online chat, and all you have to do to access it is scroll down to the bottom of our webpage. There's a quick link down there that says e-tutoring. You can click it and you're good to go.
And that's also free.
Very free.
Terrific. I want to just tell our audience that we have coming up next week, we've got 3 more shows for you. At 1 o'clock on Wednesday, April 29th, a week from today, Jason Winters is going to be doing a business talk. At 2 o'clock, Mike Thompson will be talking and sharing with some information about communication. And then at 3 o'clock, my colleague, Dr. Donna Mitchell, and I will be on again, hopefully with some students who are some of our award-winning students. We want to get their input as to how they managed to do so well and succeed at Rio Grande, and we're looking forward to that and hope that you'll be able to come back and share that with us. We've got just a few more seconds. Is there anything else that you want to share about some things that are going on in your area?
Is there? Well, we're we're wrapping up the year, but you know, finals are next week, and we will be there until Friday, and we will be there all through finals week. So,
So
8
it's
to
available.
5. Yes.
It's available and free to all of our students. So we're good to go. Thank you, everybody.